Sometimes people ask me, Christian, what is CAP2 really doing? And then I always tell them, well, just go to our homepage and take a look at our dashboards. We have a couple of demonstrator dashboards that basically show what our capabilities are. And if you like, I would like you to come along and take a tour of our dashboards, of our demonstrators. And maybe we just start with our thermal intelligence. With our steel thermal intelligence, I should say, because what we do there is we look at the infrared signature of steel plants all around the world to get a better understanding of the capacity utilization. And maybe we just switch to the Asset Explorer because this is the way to look at single steel plants and their infrared radiation. And maybe we just go to this area of the world. I'm sure you've already recognized it, the Strait of Hormuz, which is, of course, so far interesting because there we had a very strong change in capacity utilization in many plants due to the war. In some cases, yeah, plants were destroyed. In other cases, they just had to shut down because they were not supplied with steel, with iron ore anymore. For example, this plant here, you can see that for many, many years, this plant had a rather stable infrared signature, but in the last couple of weeks, it basically came down to zero, so it doesn't seem to be working anymore. Another dashboard that we offer, and of course, going along with that is a service that can be subscribed to, is our EUA signal dashboard. That's a dashboard that helps asset managers and also industrial clients to optimize the timing of buying or selling EUA positions based on the analysis of different input factors, gas storage, choke points in shipping, port activities, coal data, load in the electric grid, steel, cement. In both cases, we use the infrared signature of those plants. We have a hedge signal for asset managers based on different sub-signals. Without going into detail at this point in time, we have an opportunistic timing signal tailor-made for industrial clients who look for optimal days to buy and sell without going into detail at this point in time. But it's really very helpful if you're dealing with EUAs. And we have the same approach for EU natural gas, same input, basically same model, same dashboard without going into detail. You can take a look at it for yourself. Another thing I would like to point at is our critical minerals and mining explorer. For example, in Guinea, we look at mine activity of bauxite mines. Bauxite is needed to produce aluminum. Aluminum is a very important commodity these days. Energy transition would not work without aluminum. You need it for electric grids, but also for batteries. By the way, cars, planes always need aluminum. Very important. A lot of bauxite, basically almost the majority of bauxite these days is coming from Guinea, and we look at mining activity in that area, but we also look at stockpiles to understand destocking and restocking happening in harbors, in stacker piles, but also on stockpiles on the mining area. And you can select targets with this target finder, and then you can take a look at our 3D animations for those piles. In this case, we have a stacker pile in a harbor with a couple of lines, another stacker pile here, which is obviously not that full right now. So there's some empty capacity that's not being used. And of course, all those numbers can be aggregated to arrive at an overall estimate of how much bauxite is on stockpiles, stored in stockpiles. At the same time, we have an energy and refinery monitor, which aims at understanding what's going on in refineries all around the world based on the flaring of the methane flare of refineries, which always tells a very compelling story on what's going on, whether you have some problems in in the refinery, and then sometimes it also tells you when the plant has been shut down. And again, maybe we just go to the Strait of Hormuz because there we have a lot of refineries which were shut down. For example, this one here, even though I don't know it for sure, but I think this one had to shut down. And maybe we take a look at the latest data of the infrared signature. And you can see in 24, more or less, the plant was running normally. Then the beginning of 25, there was maybe some kind of maintenance. Actually, don't know, but there was no infrared signature. And in the last couple of weeks, again, it went to zero. So the last numbers that are available are from May 26, and after that, there's no flaring, obviously, anymore. So maybe this plant was destroyed. Maybe it's not being delivered with oil anymore, so it can produce oil, but obviously something went wrong. And again, you can aggregate all those numbers globally to get a very good understanding of current, basically real-time oil production in global refineries, which is also sometimes very helpful for all kinds of analysis. The same can be done for cement plants. Cement plants, they again emit heat. They have a very clear infrared signature that can be interpreted in a very special manner, and that's what we do. And again, I would like to share our dashboard, our demonstrate dashboard with you. In this case, it's not being updated every day, but of course you can have access to versions that are being updated every day. And maybe we just for the purpose of showing the explanatory power, we switch to the yearly deviation analysis for the year 26. For all European countries, of course, you could select single countries, but I'll just stick to the overall EU signal. And there you can see a seasonal pattern, obviously. But within the seasonal pattern, you can see the distribution of infrared radiation. And right now, the infrared radiation is at the very bottom of the historic distribution, which means that obviously European cement industry seems to have a big problem right now. Again, also probably construction, building sector seems to be running far below its normal capacity utilization. You can also see that for a couple of days we did not have any data points. That was actually the case because one satellite didn't deliver the quality that we were looking for. So for a couple of days we were not delivered with the right numbers, but now it's up and running again. Okay, what else do we have? Maybe we switch to our choke point explorer. That's another indicator that describes shipping activity at different choke points around the world, like the Strait of Dover, Öresund, Strait of Gibraltar, or Strait of Hormuz. This is, of course, again, a wonderful example. You can see what happened with the beginning of the war. And since then, it hasn't really recovered a lot. Those numbers are quite up to date, but yeah, there's not that much of a recovery going on. Also looking at the historical distribution, but actually this could be done for all straits that might be of interest to you. And you can again aggregate all those numbers and get a very good understanding of global shipping. By the way, we have a very similar product for individual parts. It's not there as a demonstrated dashboard, but of course, as a client, you would have access to that data set also. Well, I hope this gave you some, how should I put it, some idea what kind of data CAP2 looks at and how we analyze data. Of course, all of that can be tailor-made, custom-made. If you have a very special request looking for certain subjects, we can definitely work on that. For example, a couple of days, a shipping company asked us whether we could monitor the production of so-called monopiles that you use for offshore wind industry. that can be done easily with satellites, radar, optical satellites. So if you have a special task, basically almost everything these days is possible, and it's possible real time or almost real time, which is, of course, a gigantic change compared to how it worked 5, 10, 15 years ago, when you had to rely on official statistics that were delayed, when you had to rely on company reports that maybe came out 4 times a year, always looking in the rear mirror, never having the possibility to understand what's going on real time. That's not possible. CAP2 can help you there. So if you have a question, if you're interested in having a chat with us, give us a call, write us an email, and I'm happy to talk to you. Have a great day. Bye bye.